What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another thrilling edition of Late Night Reds. I'm Skylar Webker, and tonight I have Seth Shaner joining me. Seth, how's it going? And hopefully you got to watch the game while eating some good food today.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate the ability to come on. I know Ben had some family duties, and I nearly did too. I had family still here until about 8:40 or so. So here we are, and I'm excited to be back and on this show. I look forward to obviously all the comments, and hopefully we got some happy Reds fans out there.
I hope so. I mean, after today's game, that was looking like a football score there, 24-2. Whew.
Yeah, they said something like Ellie got tackled in the end zone, or else they could have. it would have been a shutout, but they gave up the safety.
Yeah, well, it was a much needed win after yesterday's game and kind of coming in here with the game plan being a bullpen game. So it was nice to get that nice needed victory where you didn't have to put guys out there just to eat the innings and get through it. You could let some guys kind of sit and eat up a little more because your offense was carrying you through it.
Yeah, it was a very uncharacteristic start, right, by Hunter Green yesterday. We all kind of got a little befuddled by that. I know Jeff Brantley talked a little bit about the idea that the two starts before was as he pitched into the ninth inning, threw over 100 pitches. And then the next start, he had a great outing as well. Maybe he threw 7 or into the 8th or whatever it was. Jeff Brantley kind of speculated, especially let's remember it's April 20th today. Yesterday was April 19th. Still early. I would expect your ace to be able to do pretty well, even if he does go deep into games every outing. But I don't know what happened with Hunter. But the good news is when you play the 3-game set and you win 2 of them, you can walk away pretty happy.
Yeah, it's nice that they got the series win, and they're getting Lodolo back, which kind of pushes everybody's starts back one because they kind of getting an extra day in there. With Hunter Green yesterday, I really think it was like the field did not look like it was well kept. I don't know if it rained there in Baltimore recently, and it looked humid. Like it looked muggy through the screen. These guys were sweating. The ball was kind of not great out there.
Yeah, I mean, you do wonder, I guess. Look, the some of the games, the great game came out at San Francisco and cool temperatures, right? Not humid at all. We haven't had any humidity here in Ohio at all yet, and so yeah, you go out there and I don't know if it had rained or if it didn't really seem to rain during any of those games, and maybe they just have more of a clay based infield or something like that, but. Yeah, I was intrigued by that outing by Hunter. I hope it doesn't linger. But today, man, Suter gave them everything they needed, and I think they just did a great job, obviously, with the bats. And I mean, Noelvi Marte deserves some flowers, and Austin
Yes.
Rins. I mean, your backup catcher who would be in AAA if it wasn't for the fact that your starting catcher's hurt ends up with 6 hits. That's just I don't know. That's amazing for me.
Yeah, the bottom of the order really got it done today, but I think this entire week we've really seen the offense is coming around. I mean, don't look now, but the offense is starting to get red hot. You got Jake Fraley who's starting to turn it on. You have kind of all these guys starting to get timely hits. There's 2 guys that I really want to call out that stat lines really stood out to me this week. Gavin Lux's stat line this week is a 5.8, and this is before today's game. I got these stats. So all these stats have gone up since. But in the last 7 days, his batting average is a 588 batting average, a 650 on base percentage, a 708 slug, and a 1300 OPS. That's getting it done. I mean, that's probably a better stat line than he's had most of his LA career.
Yeah, I mean, well, he had a great second half last year.
That's true.
And I think so. The funny thing is, we're going to talk here a little bit about another guy on the Reds who I might have a different opinion on something than you do, and I'm going to kind of use last year's stats to kind of prove my point a little bit.
Yeah.
But you never want to count on it. It's just like Austin Hayes. I mean, you can't say, well, Chad Dotson always would say, hope is not a strategy. So you can't. Look, we had hope for Austin Hayes to come back to his form from 2 years ago. You hope Gavin Lux can replicate what he did for the last 3 months of last season. You hoped Jamer Candelario could somehow bounce back. He hasn't yet. And you hope CES could be healthy and do some things. So all these things, and some of those are based on prior results, such as Candelario and Austin
Mm-hmm.
Hayes and things like that. And sometimes it does work out. I mean, there was enough reason to believe that Austin Hayes could put all this together, right? And say, hey, we think that he can get past what he had last year, especially with the kidney issues. That's not normal, right? To have
Right.
as a baseball player, that's not a normal ailment for a baseball player. So if you push that aside, and then obviously a little bit of slow out of the gates as far as his hamstring, but yeah, Gavin Lux coming up like he has. I mean, and Espinal, man, Espinal can put the ball wherever he wants. It feels like right now.
The only thing that Espinal is missing is being able to catch a barrel. I think I follow this
Yeah,
kind of account on Instagram, and they're doing like the lame duck kind of watch and who's going to be the last player in the league to get a barrel. And Espinal is still on that list. He's still up for the running.
I guess where do you stand though? Like we've got to get out of this world that we were in there for a while on launch angle, right? Where every player,
Mm-hmm.
no matter on the where you were in the pecking order, was trying to hit the ball out of the park and lift the ball and things like that. Like in a perfect world for me, you've got your Friedels and your Espinals and guys that just are kind of annoying to the other team, right? I mean, like if you give Espinal even a few feet gap between the first baseman and second baseman on that right side, he'll slap a ball through there anytime. And I'm sorry, there's room in this game for, I hope he's okay. Luis Ariz tonight had a collision at first base against
Yeah.
the Astros. I hope he's okay. But there's room in this game for guys like Quan for the Guardians. Like
Mm-hmm.
just put the bat on the ball and put it in play. There's room in the game for guys like that they don't all have to slug. And I see your point completely. Like Espinal does need to probably hit the ball harder at some point. But man, I am so energized by the different types of ways. Now, if they had signed one more power bat for the outfield, that'd been great. But no, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't say getting a barrel in the sense of home runs, but
Yeah, I
definitely
get it.
like we saw a couple either yesterday or today. Like Ellie hit a screamer straight to the third baseman, but it was so fast that the third baseman couldn't keep a hand on the ball and was able to make it to first. So I don't mean kind of barreling as
Sure.
hitting
Okay.
dingers, but definitely getting enough wood on it to make it harder on the defense.
Well, and to your point, was it last night that Ellie hit that screamer up the middle that hit the mound? And,
Yep.
the infield was kind of pinched in toward the bag there from because I think he was bad left-handed. So the shortstop was already Gunnar Henderson was basically straddling the line where he could be,
Hmm.
and he had no chance to get it because they said it was 122 off the bat, right? 122 miles an hour, and it's like, oh my goodness, there's nothing that can like not many people could hit it that hard at that angle, right? And say, hey, there's just you have no prayer of even trying to stop that. Good people in the
Yeah.
chat tonight, Skylar.
Yeah, the chat's very lively tonight. Um, the other thing, I don't want this to be a super Ellie show because I feel like every show could be an Ellie show. That kid's amazing. But the catch that he had today
Oh
in
yeah.
the bottom of the third or top of the bottom of the second, whatever it was, oh, that was just incredible.
It, again, it's like the funny thing though was, and Jeff Brantley. I love when Jeff Brantley's on the TV call. I mean, he's really good on the
Hmm.
radio too, but when he's on the TV call, which is how I kind of consume the Reds more these past several
Hmm.
years, I think he does such a great job. And he said what we were all thinking. He said, keep showing it over and over. That's incredible. It really is. But when the ball was hit, he expected him to catch it. And that's kind of
Hmm.
how I felt. And I didn't have the same angle. And I've actually been to Camden Yards twice. And that perch from the broadcasters that they have there is pretty nice. It's better than Pittsburgh and Washington where they're so high. I would have really liked to have been. I actually sat in the second level right above the press box the last time I went right behind home plate. I would have liked to have had that angle on that catch because just to see it off the bat and see how hard it was hit. And what Jackson Holiday hit it, right? So, and he hits the ball hard. So amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, going back, I mean, the offense is just coming around. The other guy I really wanted to shout out this week was TJ Friedel, who's got
Mhm.
a, like you said, um, he doesn't have a high slug rate, a 550 slug, but a 450 batting average, a 478 on base, coming to a 12 or a 1028 OPS. Like that's good. Just getting on base is, helpful enough when you have guys behind you coming back from injury in Matt McLain and Austin Hayes. I mean, there's a lot more damage behind you, so you're a lot more valuable just getting on base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and again, different guys have different jobs, and we're seeing it in this lineup, and we're seeing. I think the whole Austin Hayes thing is really interesting. I mean, probably can't stay as hot as he is right now, and he certainly had some fun going back to Baltimore, right? They traded him, and certainly he was able to go back where he had his biggest success as a big leaguer. He's just
Mhm.
getting his Reds career started, and he gets to go to Baltimore in the first full week, right? And
Yeah.
I just think he rounds out that lineup so well when you can stack guys that you hope will get on base, and then you've got a few other guys. And also with Matt McLain back, you're not putting Espinal or Dunn at that 2 hole, which we could discuss why. I know Terry Francona has explained that he likes to have guys know their role, and so if you've got
Mhm.
a placeholder pretty much in that 2 hole, because Matt McLain, unless as he showed against a lefty starter, and they move Matt McLain up to the leadoff, Matt McLain's going to be your 2 hole guy, right? So I get what he's saying, but Matt McLain, we didn't know that Matt McLain could come back as quickly as he did either. So we probably
Mhm.
sat around kind of a lot of folks worried, like, oh, are we really going to bat this guy number 2 this often?
Yeah, I mean, with getting these guys back, my biggest thing is Ellie's numbers are going to get better because there's more protection around him in the lineup, knowing, okay, you got one of the guys that's red hot right now in Austin Hayes. So I can't lose Ellie and have a risk of Hayes catching something. And then even behind that, you have Gavin Lux who's heating up and hitting everything around the yard. So just having that protection in the lineup where it's not just one guy doing it the whole time. Hunter Martin brings up here Rake Fraley. We're getting
Yeah,
Rake
I mean, come
Fraley
on.
back finally.
Yeah. Hey, 2 things. Number one, Carrie asked me if I remember the Big Red Machine having injuries. I'm sorry. I was born in 1979, so I'm not quite that old. Um, I would say though, if you go back, there's kind of a myth out there that the grade 8 started so many games together. If you go back and look at it, they didn't really start as many games as you think they did. It's kind of it's just there. But the other side of it is, and again, I understand not wanting to dwell on Ellie because we could make every show about Ellie, but his run creation with the RBIs, he's got what 21 and 21 games, or he did have. Um, and then the idea that even when he maybe struggles a little bit here or there, he's walking, he's getting on
Hmm.
base, he's being very selective, and also I know he hit the home run left-handed. Today, right? It seems so
Yep.
long ago they scored so many runs. That was early. Um, he's doing things. He's doing some damage from the right side, isn't he? And that's pretty amazing
Hmm.
to me too. So like to your point, like, I don't know how many times if you've got now certainly they focus on Ellie more than anybody, but how many times are they going to turn him around and bat him right-handed if Lux is right behind him or 2 spots behind him,
Hmm.
or actually if they bring a lefty in to turn him to right-handed, if Hayes is right behind him, right? Do
Right.
you want to have if that lefty has a 3 batter minimum, do you really want to have Austin Hayes get to face a lefty when Ellie's actually doing pretty well from that right side?
Exactly. So that just the protection that he's starting to get just with guys getting healthy. I mean, we got quite a bit of guys coming back healthy this week, since or at least since the last time Ben and I got on. McLean's back, Hayes is back. We got Abbott back from since the last time Ben and I were on. So, and they did report it today that Ty Steve is getting closer. He's doing a little more activity. We're seeing a lot more pregame warmups out of him. So you got to feel like he's getting real close to being out on assignment.
Hey, and one thing I'll say, I name drop my son Joey multiple times on these shows, but he's 14 now, and I'm daily amazed at the acuity he has for the game. He's like, Dad, if Wins can play this well, maybe he was talking about Trevino yesterday. If they can play this well, maybe we don't have to rush back Stevenson. That he told me out of nowhere. He's like, maybe that'd be a good thing that he doesn't have to rush back. I was like, Good point, son. That's awesome. I believe it, man. Trevino's hitting the ball. He's getting on at the bottom of the lineup, and you bring your backup catcher in and have the day he had today. It's definitely. I mean, he's on cloud nine. I guarantee you, wins is.
Yeah, I mean, what was it between him and Marte, which Marte needed today in the worst way possible. I think this helps get that guy's confidence back in him. I still have a lot of high hopes for him after
Yes.
the PED last year and coming back and not quite being anything close to what he was. I think if he could find a way to get some more steady playing time with this confidence that he hopefully is acquiring, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of the reason why he was the key piece in the Luis Castillo trade. And I think that opportunity is opening up with Candy's continued struggles.
Yeah, and again, with Candy's, we talked about this on the show the other day with Chris Garber. With Candy's contract, it's just kind of sitting there, right? Like, they're not going to cut bait yet. But I will say this: I was so happy to see that Marte, that first chance he got to play when he got called up, like after McLean went on the IL. I was really happy to see he obviously took what they were trying to get him to do defensively seriously, right? Because it was really the bat that struggled last year, and that he brought that onto the field, or vice versa, with his throwing. And he just looks so athletic at third base compared to having Candy out there. And I'm sorry, I don't think Candelario can play defense. I think in the long run he's going to be your DH, and Spencer Steer needs to play first base, and Candy can be DH, and then you got to figure out a way to get Lux in the lineup and go from there. But Marte, my goodness, if Marte could become your everyday third baseman and play like it, then you're not mixing and matching as much, and it's just this lineup just gets even deeper.
Yeah, and the depth is something that we've needed in this lineup like forever. I mean, we always happens where like you think you're super deep, you're set, and then injuries, like we saw at the start of the year, so many injuries at the start of the year. So the depth got tested a little bit, but to come out of all of those injuries and be sitting at a 500 record against upper echelon teams, I think the only team that wasn't an upper echelon team is the Pirates, and that's because they're the Pirates. But the rest of the time, I mean, the Rangers, the Giants, the Mariners, the Orioles, like those are all really good teams to stack up against.
Well, and I think about it too, like I've said it before, like think about the 2010 through 2013 Reds, and they didn't have depth. Okay. Their backups were not really very good players. The thing that saved them in 2012 when Joey Votto hurt his quad was that you had a Todd Frazier just chomping at the bit, and he was blocked by Scott Rowland. And so Todd Frazier was able to play first base a lot of that time, and they actually made their lead in the Central a lot bigger, and they really did a great job without Votto in the lineup back then. But now you look at it, and again, it's not depth. It's not like the pitching depth that they seem to have right now. Okay, they can go down to Louisville and get a starter, especially you've got Wade Miley coming, you've got Rhett Lauder coming, you've got these guys 6, 7, 8 deep as far as starting pitchers, and you've got some relievers too that you could count on if you need to dip down there. They don't really have that in AAA as far as, except for the possibility that Marte becomes that, right? But their big league backups. If listen again, if you're having to force Gavin Lux into the lineup because he's hitting so well, but he really doesn't have a place, that's a good problem to have. And I'll let Terry Francona let Terry Francona figure it out. That's fine. That's why he's here. And I'm telling you, if these guys are healthy, and it's a big if, because Spencer Steer needs to still prove that he can play defense and hit the ball, and that his shoulder's fine. Because he finally admitted, we have to read between the lines because nobody seems to want to ask the hard questions. We finally found out in the Jim Day podcast last week that he actually jammed his shoulder in June of last year. And I remember getting to come on a few of these shows with Nate and with Chad, and then even on Late Night Reds with Ben, and I think one time with Chad. And I was asking the question, is Spencer Steer hurt? Because remember last April he was on fire. and
Mm-hmm.
then he just wasn't anymore. And he had a good season. He had a 2020 season. He was good for, especially 90 RBIs or whatever he had. He had a good overall season, but he wasn't the same hitter after apparently that time in June that he hurt his shoulder diving back into a bag. And nobody ever talked about it last year. And here we are. We finally get the answer that, yeah, he was banged up.
Yeah, and I think having the depth that we have, and like you said, the only depth that they have is really on this major league roster as it comes to position players, because there's not really a minor leaguer that's anywhere close as far as position player wise. So to have that depth at the major league roster helps whenever you have guys like uh, CES or Steer who are like trying to battle through something or slumping. You can kind of hide that a little more when you have all of these guys that can step in and produce. Like if you have to force feed Lux into the lineup, or Espinal, who's been hitting well, Wins, who's been hitting well, Trevino, who's been killing it this season. So I think having that depth helps hide a lot of things that you hope can resolve themselves, like injuries or hitting slumps.
Well, and listen, Nate Dotson and Chris Garber had a nice back and forth on Twitter the other day about when have the Reds had a good DH, right? The DH position, especially since it became a full-time position, maybe in 2020, but then they reverted back, I think, in 21, right? But
Yeah.
but because in 2020 you could mix and match with Votto and Castellanos and all those guys. But they've never prioritized it because remember, even back years ago in interleague play, you'd be like, that guy's the DH, or you're giving a guy a half day off, right, by moving him out of his position. But listen, you've got 9. It's not just 8 positions anymore. You've got 9 offensive positions to fill. And I'm here to tell you, I'm repeating myself, but if Gavin Lux and Marte and Candelario and even Espinal, like if these guys are your, like it's almost like the play-in on the NBA, right? If these guys are your 8 through 11 or whatever it is, right? 8, 9, 10, 11. If these guys are those guys to fill that 9 spots daily, boy, they're in such a better spot once these guys are all healthy, and they're in a better spot than they have been in a long time.
And it's only going to get hopefully healthier and deeper because you have Ty Stevenson who's coming back, and you're like, okay, do we put him at first or at DH or at catcher? Because you have Trevino who's doing really well. He's having a really, really good season. And you don't want to like start taking at bats away from that guy.
No, but I think that can be handled fairly easily. I think what happens is Stevenson comes back and he is your starting catcher. Maybe he eases into it. Maybe it's more of a 50-50 split for a little bit. But then at some point, it's going to be more 60-40, or if it's not 60-40, it's Stevenson's going to be DHing on a certain night, and you're going to have Trevino catching. And I think it's going to be good for both guys. It's going to help save their legs. And, I think that's why it was very intentional when you bring in a guy like that, when you make that trade and then you see the effect he has on your clubhouse in spring training and you give him an extension. All of this is very intentional. And listen, let's give the Reds front office credit. We don't do that very often, but to hear, it's not that they heard us fans and then they did it. I'm not saying that, but it was a real critique of this franchise to not have even maybe one major league caliber hitting catcher at times, and then to not have a quality enough backup as far as a hitting catcher goes and things like that. And it's not even just that. Now you bring in a Trevino, and he is so good with these pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a platinum glove winner at one point.
Yeah, he was.
Right. I know he won a gold glove. No, I applaud the front office on that. I think everybody has to. And certainly we hope that Tyler Stevenson comes back and can replicate what he did last year.
I'm still on the hunt for like the last like great free agent that they signed. I've asked all my family members. Nobody's giving me a great answer.
It might be Kevin Mitchell. He played 2 years. He was hurt. He was hurt like 70% of the time. I have a joke about Kevin Mitchell. I forget if it was 93 or 94. He had a 17-game hitting streak as a Red, and it was
Mhm.
a nice but the hitting streak took place over 33 or 34 total games because he just didn't play. He would I can't play today, Skip, and then he wouldn't play for a day or two, and then he'd come back, he'd get his knock 2 or 3, and then he'd miss 2 or 3 more days. Like that happened. It's in the record book somewhere. I'd love to maybe I'll unearth it someday. He had a 17
But
game hitting streak over 30 plus games. And again, he was a great hitter. I know I don't know that you were old enough, right, to pay attention to Kevin Mitchell at that time. Look him up sometime as a Red. He won the MVP in '89 with the Giants, hitting 47 home runs. But as a Red, he might have been a top 5 hitter for the Reds in the '90s. He was unbelievable.
yeah, I mean, so like I bring this up as far as the free agent or whoever they gave a multi-year free agent deal because that shows like they've just historically stunk at free agent signings, but they've been really great about these sneaky
Oh
kind of
yeah.
trade and extends like Trevino or Sonny Gray, Castillo. Like these, they've done really, really well at acquiring talent via the trade market.
Well,
So like I feel really good about that piece of the front office.
it's pretty easy to break down. They're trading for these guys. Remember, like Sonny Gray's got his extension at only $11 million a year when the Reds got
Mm-hmm.
him, and they could have kept him at that rate, and they decided it was too expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was that yo-yo off season when they sold everybody, and then what was it, Mike Minor they bought? They paid about
Yeah.
as much as they were going to pay Sonny Gray anyway. But no, that's what they're doing. They're getting Luis Castillo before he makes it big, and they're going through maybe his ARB years, but it's still not. I mean, the Reds were never in on Manny Ramirez when he went to the Red Sox. They were never in. Certainly weren't in on A-Rod. Um, and I know Griffey was a trade, right? But it was a sign. It was a trade and sign. That was only going to
Mm-hmm.
happen if he got his long-term deal with the Reds, right? So that's the closest you could come to saying they paid close to top dollar. But even then, it's kind of a hometown discount. The Reds are always going to be that team that trades for the guy with 3 or 4 years of control, who may be a stud still or already, but
Mm-hmm.
they're just not. They don't swim in those waters, and maybe it's smart. Like the only guy they've paid into his 40s like that is Votto, and I'm so happy they did. There's still a lot of people out there though in the last 4 years of Otto's deal that were like very upset, saying he makes too much money. And again, go backwards and say the team can afford to spend more money. Don't I will never side with a could be billionaire owner if they sold the team for what it's worth over a player like Joey Votto who did so much good for the city and for Reds country.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's obviously front office dysfunctionality, but to giving them their flowers, they have been really good at the acquisition and then extending the right guys like uh, uh, Trevino, Sonny Gray as the two kind of latest examples. They've been really, really good and accurate and kind of seeing what those guys can be and capitalizing on it.
Yeah, no, and I give them credit when it's due, and I think that's important. So yeah, let's figure this out and say, hey, hopefully, hope that they will continue to play well and continue to show that they've got something there, and I think they do, and I think the manager's going to be a big part of that in the long run.
I agree. I think Tito's coming into form. Um, I have I in my notes here for I want to just kind of break down a little bit more about like what it means for this offense to be heating up. I took these notes before today's game, so they're all skewed.
Yeah,
Uh, Before today's game, they were seventh in the league at batting average with runners in scoring position. They are now fourth in the league at batting average with runners in scoring position.
so that's
So
after
they
today's
they
game.
get better and better.
You're saying after today's game they moved up to fourth?
After today's game, they moved up to fourth.
Well, what they had at one point they had 15 hits with runners on, running runners in scoring position.
Yeah, that's to tell you how good. And then look, Baltimore Orioles are number one at this list at runners in scoring position.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing. I have a friend who is a Baltimore fan, and I texted him on Friday morning, and I said the Reds need 2 of 3 this weekend, and I figured it would be the first 2 after they won Friday night because I didn't know what was going to happen with the pitching today. Um, but he wrote back and he said, "Yeah, the Orioles are a hit-only team. They've got so many pitchers on the IL, which they do. Their pitching's terrible. You'll feast on them." And I was like, "Hey, the Reds are the opposite. They're not doing as well at the plate, but they've got good pitching." So, of course they come out and hit all these home runs and score all these runs, but yeah, I mean, certainly quote unquote small sample size, right? It's still early, but
Sure.
you're comparing them against other teams in similar positions. I find it interesting. The Cubs are right there too. The Cubs and the Diamondbacks made history in Wrigley Field on Friday. They scored 16 runs in one inning between the two teams. That
And
was
the
a
Cubs
Wrigley
still
Field
ended
record.
up winning that.
They did. They came back. They gave up 10 runs in the 8th and came back and won because they scored 6 to retake the lead. But they're for real. I've got actually Chris Garber was saying on the show the other night his I think 2 of his kids are Cubs fans and that's what they watch all the time. And he says when you watch a team all the time, you see that if they're really good or not. And he's like, yeah, they are.
Yeah, I mean, look, these are upper echelon teams. It's not like they're in here with any kind of outliers. Tampa Bay Rays are a really good hitting team. The Dodgers, obviously, are the really great
Yeah.
hitting team. So, I mean, to be in the kind of circle of these good hitting teams this early in the season, when traditionally we have kind of sucked until like June, it feels good to kind of see some things coming around, seeing Chris Valleca's hitting plan come around for these guys.
Yeah. And, again, sometimes when it's colder out and things like that, it's a slow start. Like Candelario seems to be every year. So you hope, but then the rest of this offense they're going to take off whether he is or not. So,
Mm-hmm.
and again, the run production out of Ellie, the patience at the plate out of Ellie, the number of pitches seen. Sadak had that number the other day. He's way up there, I think, in pitches seen,
Yes.
which is so important. Even if it ends up in a strikeout or getting out. And hey, we just eclipsed 100 viewers for the live show. That's so good to see. As we had the couple weeks off, and then now we're returning with a new lead man here. Skylar, you're doing a great job, man. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I hope you all in the chat are having well. I know we're getting nerdy, getting into the stats, but
Mr.
it's
Juan's
fun. It's
here.
part of baseball.
Mr. Juan's here. I know you've been
Mr.
seeing Tim still,
Juan.
Mr. Juan. I know you've been talking with Tim still, but we love having you here.
Yeah, I love having everybody here. Carrie's been very lively in the chat. Mr. Juan, Hunter's been on here. Joey Gaditza, our friend up north.
Yeah.
Oh, I also had in our stats that Ellie was 5th in the league in RBIs, and I don't know where that finished out after today. So,
Oh yeah.
still somewhere top 5 in RBIs in the league, which, look, if you look at his batting average, not great, but he's walking more. As you said, he's seeing more pitches. He stole his 7th base today. And to be 5th in the league in RBIs, that's incredible. I wish they would give him RBIs whenever he steals a bag or causes an error and 2 runs come in. But
well, that
whatever.
wouldn't be a run batted in. That would be a run in.
Runner in.
No, and he's just again he hit a grand slam at one point, so obviously again it's fairly early, so he's gonna have those stats. But my goodness, again we could go back to this well all night. It's so exciting that he's on our favorite team, and I mean if we want to sit around and just worry about what's gonna look like in 5 years, I suppose you could do that. But right now it's so fun, and we haven't had playoff baseball in over a decade, folks. So meaningful baseball all season and hope for a playoff berth. That's where I am right now.
I agree. And whatever happens in the future with Ellie happens. Nothing we can do to contribute to it. But I would strongly urge the front office, build around this guy now. Don't cut corners. Don't think, well, we got enough. Like, build around it now when you can.
Yeah.
But
hey, Skylar, Carey's been asking about, Ellie going airborne. And, I got to admit, when when he landed after he made that amazing catch today. I wish we could show highlights on this show. Um, I was holding my breath for a moment. But hey, sometimes the best athletes they know how to land gracefully too, and I think that's Ellie. And so maybe also you folks who would rather him be an outfielder, maybe be glad there's no walls to run into at shortstop. So no, he's a shortstop, and he is very good. And I know Tim's been fighting that battle on his show and on the social media sphere. Um, he's a very good shortstop. He gets the balls other people can't. And if you have to rush a throw because you got to a ball nobody else can in the hole, it's tough to take an error. But the errors don't necessarily show how good you are and how good your range is. So
Yes,
he'll
and
keep getting better too.
for the landing, when you're 23 years old, I'm pretty sure you can cut an arm off and it grows back. No, you're indestructible at
He's like
23,
Gumby.
or at least I was.
He's like Gumby. He's not 45 like I am and feel like I can't even get out of bed in the morning.
Exactly. And you're right about the errors are going to happen. And it's because he's doing stuff that other shortstops can't do. He's getting to balls that nobody else is going to be able to get to. He's able to rocket a throw that nobody else would even be able to attempt because they don't have the arm that he has. I'm sure it'll get cleaned up. It'll get to the point where, because we are still seeing some of the like, all right, he's just taking his eye off the ball, and we still have a couple of those, but clean those up. I mean, he's unbelievable. And I'd follow this up. If you're going to move Elliott to the outfield, who do you have to play shortstop? Who do you have coming in?
Well, Edwin Arroyo is the guy in the system, but he's still got to prove he can even hit AAA pitching. So
yeah, and I think he's still hurt.
yeah. So no, I'm not in any hurry to do that for sure. And I think he's still. And as I've said before, I remember in 1998 when Barry Larkin was still playing at a very high level. Pokey Reese was probably a little better athlete than Barry at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And they played Pokey at third base a lot that summer because Aaron Boone was injured and some other guys weren't able to play. And listen, so if Edwin Arroyo can hit and he wants to try to play third base, he's welcome to do it.
There's an opening. All right. So I have this other thing in our notes that I wanted to get to. I know I asked it in the Riverfront this week, but I thought since you were coming on, it would be a great opportunity to talk about it with you. Do the Reds have a Nick Martinez problem? And I say this in the sense of he's making 21 mil from the qualifying offer. He was expected to be kind of the starter, where last year he was expected to be kind of a swing guy. So you have a guy making more than all of your starting pitchers combined, probably more than all your starting pitchers and your bullpen combined. Rocking a 6 ERA. And I would say likely the reason the Reds didn't pull a trigger on a Lou Bob trade, because Lou Bob, for those that don't know, they were really close on a Lou Bob deal with the White Sox, but they couldn't agree on who was going to eat how much money of the contract. You know that if the Reds weren't paying Nick Martinez $21 million, they probably are likely to pull the trigger and eat a little more money out of it. So do the Reds have a Nick Martinez problem?
All right, I'm going to answer this in my what I think, and I actually looked it up, so I've got numbers to back my point up this time. I didn't really have that the other night. Do you know last year he ended up with a 3.10 ERA, and I know ERA is not everything, but let's just focus on that for now. It's going to tell us kind of how things are going. Now, and last year he started out the season. He got the pitch as a starter initially, and I'm just going to roll through this. He ended up with a 3.1 ERA, and he had 147 or so innings, right? So he went back and forth, starting or relieving. So that's a pretty good workload for a guy that spent, at least 2 out of 6 months in the bullpen. So we'll just start there. But last year, here at the end of each start, here's what his ERA was: 5.40, 7.20, 5.79, 4.76, 5.48, 5.46. And two of those, one was 3 innings, one was 4 innings. So after April, on April 30th, he had a 5.46 ERA last year. In the month of May, he had a 2.79 ERA overall. In the month of June, he had a 3.21 ERA. In the month of July, 1.62. In August, he went up a little bit to 4.26, but he was the NL pitcher of the month, I believe, in September with a 0.83 ERA. Now, look, if Rhett Lauder comes back and is ready, and if Wade Miley is really ready to be a big leaguer again, or if any number of different things happen between now and June, he could end up, Martinez that is, could end up back in the bullpen, be a swing guy, a guy that will give you 3-4 innings. Like in a game like today, it was valuable that Randy Wynn came up to fill that spot. Then Carson Spires got put on the IL. But, he can fill some of that if he needs to. Now, remember last year, too, they would start an opener, and he would come in and pitch like in the second inning quite a bit as well. I don't know that Terry Francona wants to do that like regularly, but I'm just here to tell you, I believe that like we can't always say, well, he finished with a 3.1 ERA last year, so he must have been that the whole year. We know he wasn't. He was not good in March and April last year. I'm willing to look at him and say, I think he's going to get it put together from here on out. And that might take another 2 or 3 starts, and maybe you don't feel like you have that long. I don't know. But I'm here to say I think it's okay. And I think if you were 2/3 of the big league teams in the league, $21 million for that quality of a pitcher probably wouldn't be that bad. But
I think you're right. I think it's definitely a small sample size, and he does get better as the season goes on. I think the magnifying glass goes up as the dollar value. I think most fans would say, hey, you're getting paid $21 million and you're pitching worse than the guy fighting for a spot on the roster. And baseball is a fickle game. It's different. Absolutely. But I think the intensity or the magnifying glass on it goes up when you take the qualifying offer and, like I said, likely altered the Reds offseason plans because of whatever financial allocations, because we know what this team is. We know they're a small market team. But I agree with you. I do think that they probably he gets better as the season goes on, because I do remember him a little shaky in the start of last year.
Yeah, I was
and
out
then
on
zeroed in.
Now, you make a good point, though, bringing up potential trades they could have made if they had the money, because that's what I would like to do. Like, I'm not telling you not to know how much a guy makes and have that like sway you, but there's a hopper here with all the money they're spending. And as well as I do that Hunter Green is on the contract he is because of how young he is and how young he was when he signed that extension. Everybody going into this, no one that going into this season would say Hunter Green is worse pitcher than Nick Martinez.
Yes.
But Nick Martinez is more established and in a position where last year, they paid him $14 million, I think, as a free agent.
Yeah, somewhere around that.
And I think he turned down actually an option for $16 million from the Padres to be a free agent.
Yep.
So he would have made 16 last year at the Padres. He made 14. And now this year he agreed to take the qualifying offer. Now there are people, Chris Garber among them, who will tell you they don't think the Reds thought he was going to take it. Because if he turns down the qualifying offer, the Reds get an extra draft pick.
Yep.
And so they think that's what was going to happen. That they think that's what the Reds thought would happen. I don't know. I don't know how much a guy front office talks to an agent to see what they think. It did surprise a lot of us that he accepted it.
It did.
I'll tell you that. But I think you need depth. We're bragging about the Reds pitching depth. And even if and folks are talking about, I think Tim does this, people on TV do it. that Andrew Abbott is actually your fifth starter the way it lines up, and yet he's pitching so well. All right, shuffle the deck a little bit. Tell me after April that Nick Martinez is your fifth starter. And I think even at his worst numbers, I think you'd still say, well, okay, if that's your fifth starter because your other four are pitching so well, okay, I'll take Nick Martinez as my fifth starter.
I mean, if your offense can keep doing what they're doing, I mean, again, I wrote this down before the onslaught today, but this week the Reds have averaged 5.6 runs in a game. If they can average 5 runs a game and Nick Martinez, you just gotta outscore the other team. You'd like to do it without a 24 run or score game, but if the offense can keep them up, I think that's the other piece to it.
Well, and again, there was a year where Scott Feldman was your opening day starter. I watched Jimmy Haynes. So you're talking about your number one starter technically in a year. Jimmy Haynes was your number one starter. Corey Lytle, rest in peace. Like what? Joey Anderson, was that his name? I mean, Joey Hamilton. Jimmy Anderson. These are names you don't even want to know. Okay. And so again, I tell you, if you reshuffle the deck and Nick Martinez is your fifth starter, even at 21 million, I'm still going to take him because I think he's got a track record that says I'm going to pitch better the rest of the season, or at least for half the season, or whatever it ends up being. So
yeah, I agree. And then he still has that flexibility that he could be a swing guy if, like you said, if Louder comes up and is ready and is just throwing seeds. I mean, I'm okay with Nick Martinez being a swing guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a reason they made the Singer trade, right? I mean, you could have told me, no, man, they've got Rhett Louder, they've got Burns coming. They I don't know. I don't think they had signed Wade Miley yet, but now he might be able to do something for you at some point. And it's like, well, you didn't really need to make that trade. You could have made a different trade with India. And I'm like, no. Get as much depth in the pitching rotation as you can get. The Dodgers started like 10 or 11 starters last year, and they were all great. They just had injuries and things like that. So, no, we'll be fine. And I'm here to say I'm not defending how poorly he's pitched. He has pitched poorly, but I think we'll be okay.
I agree. So with that, we'll go out. Before we get out of here, this is the goofiest baseball stat ever that he got a save in a 22-run game just because he closed the last 3 innings.
Well, and it's not wins though; it's Win with an E, right?
Yeah.
He called up. Is it Randy Wynn? Wasn't there a Randy Wynn, a hitter that played for like the Giants and some other teams?
I think that's just what my uncle says when he wins. Randy wins.
Right. So no, Wynn's had a huge day, and Wynn got a save. You're right. He's got a 3 ERA too.
I think this one perfectly sums it up.
Yep. There you go, Kerry. Thank you.
So with that, we'll get out of here. Thank you to Riverfront for having this show and having us on. Thank you to the chat and the views. I mean, the chat was super lively tonight. It's always fun to get on here at the end of the week. Thank you for Blue Wire for giving us this platform and putting us out there. If you're checking us out for the first time, please like, subscribe, leave a review on your podcast app of choice. We're on all of them. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us why we really read all the comments and all the reviews. We want to make the show better. We want to interact with fans. We're Reds fans. Talk with more Reds fans. So for that, he's Seth Shaner. I'm Skylar Webker. Have a good night, everyone.